The sleek alien vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere with deliberate caution. Inside, Ambassador Taiwan gripped the control panel, his elongated fingers trembling slightly despite centuries of diplomatic experience. "Maintain distance protocols," he instructed his crew. "Remember, this is Earth." The alien ship hovered over the Atlantic Ocean, its metallic surface reflecting the sunlight in strange patterns. Earth's military jets circled at a safe distance, weapons ready but not engaging. The world held its breath as humanity faced its first confirmed contact with an alien civilization. Taiwan's species, the Loridi, had evolved in the dense jungles of a distant world. Their 8 eyes could see across multiple light spectrums, and their gray-blue skin changed color slightly with their emotions. Right now, Taiwan's skin had taken on a pale, almost white hue, the Loridi equivalent of extreme stress. "Ambassador, the humans have approved our landing coordinates," said his assistant, Duri. "They've cleared a site near their United Nations headquarters." Taiwan nodded, his movements stiff. "Proceed with caution. Activate all protective fields." The ship descended toward the landing zone in Geneva, where hundreds of officials and thousands of onlookers gathered behind safety barriers. News cameras broadcast the historic moment to billions across the planet. What most humans didn't understand was that this moment represented not just humanity's first contact, but the breaking of a quarantine that had existed for millennia. The Galactic Council, representing over 300 spacefaring civilizations, had maintained a strict no-contact policy with Earth for reasons that went beyond standard protocols for developing worlds. Dr. Mina Park stood among the welcoming committee, her heart racing. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, she had spent her career preparing for this moment. Yet nothing in her studies had prepared her for the clear anxiety displayed by the aliens as they emerged from their vessel. Ambassador Taiwan led a delegation of 5 down the ramp. Their movements were hesitant, almost fearful. Taiwan flinched at a helicopter passing overhead, his eyes tracking it with alarm before returning to the human delegation. "Welcome to Earth," said the UN Secretary-General, stepping forward with hands spread in the universal gesture of peace. Taiwan performed a complex gesture with his 4 arms. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Council. We come in peace and with great caution." During the formal reception that followed, Dr. Park observed the aliens closely. They refused food and drink, citing compatibility concerns, but Park suspected their caution went deeper. They seemed unwilling to touch anything native to Earth, not the chairs, not the tables, not even the floor if they could avoid it. When Ambassador Taiwan was asked about his planet of origin, he gave only vague details about distance and orbital characteristics. When questioned about the Council's knowledge of Earth, he grew visibly uncomfortable. "We have observed your world for centuries," Taiwan explained, his translator device converting his clicking language to English. "Earth is marked in our oldest records as the cradle of the forgotten. We come now only because we must." The phrase sent a chill through the room. Dr. Park leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "The cradle of the forgotten." Taiwan's skin darkened slightly. "There are matters we must discuss privately with your scientific community." Later that evening, a smaller meeting convened at a secure facility. Dr. Park joined 20 of Earth's top scientists as they examined alien scanning technology that the visitors had brought. The alien science officer, Gai Ho, operated a device that projected a 3-dimensional map of Earth. Strange energy signatures pulsed at specific points, primarily in deep ocean trenches, ancient forests, and caverns far below the Earth's surface. "What exactly are your sensors detecting?" Dr. Park asked Gai Ho. "Patterns," Gai Ho whispered. "That should not exist in a living world." The alien touched the projection, zooming in on the Mariana Trench. The energy signatures formed complex networks, almost like a massive mural system spanning thousands of miles under the ocean floor. "These energy patterns," Gai Ho continued, "they are not random. They form coherent fields that our ancestors first detected over 20,000 years ago. They are the reason Earth has been quarantined. Dr. Park studied the patterns. Are they dangerous? Some kind of radiation we're not aware of. Taiwan interjected, not radiation. Consciousness. The room fell silent. What do you mean by consciousness? Asked the lead physicist, adjusting his glasses nervously. Earth harbors entities older than most intelligent species in the galaxy, Taiwan explained. They exist in deep symbiosis with your planet. They are dormant, mostly, but they dream. And sometimes they influence. Dr. Park felt a strange sensation crawl up her spine. Influence what? Evolution, weather patterns, geological activity. Taiwan paused. And occasionally, the development of intelligent species. The implications hit the room like a physical force. Humanity might not be entirely the product of natural evolution, but something guided or shaped by these ancient entities. Why come now? Dr. Park asked. If you've maintained this quarantine for thousands of years, what's changed? The aliens exchanged glances before Taiwan answered. The patterns are changing. The entities appear to be awakening, and we do not know why. Outside the window, the night sky seemed suddenly vast and threatening. Dr. Park looked at the projection again, at the pulsing networks that spanned her home planet. We need to see these phenomena firsthand, she said finally. Can your technology help us reach these locations? Taiwan's skin paled again. You wish to go to where they dwell? That would be unwise. This is our planet, Dr. Park said firmly. If something ancient is awakening here, we need to understand it. After some discussion, a compromise was reached. A joint research team would be formed, humans and aliens working together to investigate the mysterious energy patterns. As the meeting adjourned, Dr. Park stepped outside for fresh air. Looking up at the stars, she wondered how many alien civilizations were watching Earth right now, trembling at the thought of what might be awakening on this small blue planet. Whatever these ancient entities were, humanity would soon face a reality far stranger than the mere existence of alien life. Earth itself harbored secrets older than civilization, secrets that even the oldest spacefaring races feared to disturb. And they were beginning to stir. The reinforced submersible, Horizon, descended into the inky darkness of the Mariana Trench. Inside, Dr. Minna Park pressed her face against the thick viewport, trying to see beyond the cone of light projected by the vessel's powerful lamps. The deeper they went, the more the alien instruments on board pulsed with strange energy readings. Pressure holding steady at 1,000 atmospheres, reported Captain Sook from the pilot's station. All systems normal. 5 humans and 2 aliens occupy the cramped research vessel. Gai Ho, the alien science officer, monitored a complex array of instruments that emitted soft blue light. His eyes blinked in sequence rather than together, a trait Dr. Park still found unsettling after 2 weeks of working together. The signals are growing stronger, Gai Ho said. We're approaching the source. The Horizon continued its descent until it hovered just 50 meters above the ocean floor. To human eyes, there was nothing remarkable about the terrain, just the expected rock formations and occasional deep-sea creatures. There, said Gai Ho suddenly, pointing toward a section of seafloor. Do you see it? Dr. Park saw only darkness and silt. I don't see anything unusual. Gai Ho adjusted a device that projected a field of light unlike anything developed on Earth. The seafloor transformed before their eyes. What had appeared solid now revealed complex patterns of energy flowing beneath the surface like rivers of light. These energy currents form a neural network, Gai Ho explained, one that spans thousands of miles across your ocean floors. Dr. Park stared in wonder. The patterns reminded her of brain scans, neurons firing in complex sequences, but this was happening on a planetary scale. Can we take samples? She asked. Gai Ho's skin paled. That would be unwise. We should observe only. Despite the aliens' warning, the team deployed a remote-controlled probe. As it approached the seafloor, the energy patterns began to pulse more rapidly. The probe's mechanical arm extended toward the glowing network. "I'm picking up increased activity," warned Junho, the human technician monitoring the probe. The moment the probe made contact with the seafloor, a surge of energy coursed through the patterns. The submersible's lights flickered, and several instruments shut down. The probe went dead instantly. "Pull back," ordered Captain Sook. "All systems to emergency protocols." As they retreated to safer depths, Dr. Park reviewed the data they had managed to collect. It responded to contact, almost like a defensive reaction. Jai-Ho nodded solemnly. It sensed an intrusion, and it protected itself. 3 days later, Dr. Park received reports from the other research teams deployed around the world. In the ancient forests of Borneo, scientists discovered trees whose root systems transmitted identical energy signatures to those found in the Mariana Trench. In Siberia, deep cave systems revealed crystalline formations that pulsed with the same rhythm. The research teams gathered at a hastily established base in New Zealand to compare findings. Professor Won Bin Jun, Earth's leading xenobiologist, created a global map where all the energy signatures were plotted. "These are not separate phenomena," Professor Jun explained to the assembled scientists. "The evidence suggests Earth's biosphere functions as a single organism's nervous system." "But what is this organism?" asked Dr. Hana, a quantum physicist. Ambassador Taiwan stood up. He had remained silent during most of the research presentations, but now he stepped forward with obvious reluctance. "It is time I shared what the Galactic Council has known for millennia," he said. "Earth harbors entities that predate most conscious life in our galaxy. They exist in deep symbiosis with your world, occasionally guiding its evolution." A murmur ran through the room. "Are you saying Earth itself is alive?" Dr. Park asked. "Not exactly," replied Taiwan. "Earth hosts life forms so ancient and vast that your ancestors could not comprehend them. They integrated themselves with your planet's core systems, oceans, forests, geological structures, becoming essentially invisible to primitive observation." Taiwan activated a holographic display showing ancient alien text and images. These beings were already ancient when the first Loridi achieved spaceflight. They appear in the myths of dozens of galactic civilizations. Your human mythologies contain fragmented memories of their influence, beings of immense power sleeping within mountains, beneath oceans, or in the sky. Dr. Park thought of Earth's many legends of sleeping gods and giants waiting to awaken. "Why haven't we detected them before now?" asked Professor Jun. "They exist partly in dimensions beyond your current scientific understanding," Taiwan explained, "and they have been dormant for millions of years. But now," his voice trailed off. "They're waking up," Dr. Park finished for him. The room fell silent. That night, Dr. Park couldn't sleep. She walked outside the research facility and looked up at the stars. The knowledge that Earth harbored sleeping entities of unimaginable power changed everything about human understanding of their place in the universe. The next morning, new data arrived from monitoring stations worldwide. The energy patterns were showing increased activity, pulses that grew stronger and more frequent by the day. "We need to understand what's triggering this awakening," Dr. Park said during the emergency meeting. "Is it natural, or is something causing it?" Jai-Ho displayed a series of charts showing global energy patterns over the past century. The increase began approximately 150 of your years ago. It accelerated dramatically in the past 50 years. The timeline corresponded with the Industrial Revolution and the subsequent rapid expansion of human technology and environmental impact. "We're waking them up," Dr. Park realized. "Our activities, pollution, deforestation, climate change, they're disrupting the systems these entities are connected to." Taiwan nodded gravely. "This is what the Council feared. Your civilization developed too quickly, with too little understanding of your world's true nature." The most disturbing discovery came later that week. Analysis of the energy patterns revealed they were not random fluctuations but organized signals, communication between the various nodes around the planet. "They're talking to each other," Professor Jun announced. "After millions of years of silence, these entities are communicating again." Dr. Park reviewed the latest scans from the Mariana Trench. The energy patterns had changed, forming new configurations that reminded her of a massive system coming online after a long period of inactivity. "What happens when they fully awaken?" she asked Taiwan. The ambassador's skin turned nearly white. "We don't know. No one knows. That is why Earth was quarantined. That is why my people have watched your world with fear for thousands of years." As if in answer to her question, seismic stations around the Pacific Rim began reporting unusual activity. Not earthquakes exactly, more like rhythmic pulses coming from deep within the Earth's crust. The sleeping giants were stirring, and humanity was about to face something beyond their understanding. Entities that had shaped their world long before humans took their first steps. Wind howled across the Antarctic ice as Dr. Mina Park made her way to the main research dome. 6 weeks had passed since the discovery of the entities now called the Guardians, and the temporary research station had grown into a small scientific city. Researchers from 37 nations worked alongside alien scientists from the Galactic Council, all trying to understand what was happening to Earth. Dr. Park stamped snow from her boots as she entered the main facility. The central operations room buzzed with activity as scientists analyzed data from monitoring stations placed around the world. Massive screens displayed the energy patterns now detected on all continents and ocean floors. "The signal from the Amazon basin just increased by 17%, called out Dr. Jin, pointing to a flashing indicator on the main display. Dr. Park frowned. The awakening was accelerating. "What about the Siberian node?" she asked. "Still stable, but showing increased communication with the Pacific network," reported Gai-Ho, who hadn't left the monitoring station in 3 days. The research team had mapped over 300 major nodes across the planet where Guardian energy signatures were strongest. These nodes corresponded with Earth's major ecosystems: rainforests, coral reefs, mountain ranges, and ocean systems. What had initially seemed like separate phenomena now clearly formed a single planetary network. A delegation from the United Nations Security Council was touring the facility today. Dr. Park needed to brief them on the latest findings. She entered the conference room where 12 grim-faced diplomats waited. Ambassador Taiwan stood with them, along with Sung Min, the alien anthropologist who had joined the research team 2 weeks ago. "Thank you for coming," Dr. Park began. "I know the journey to Antarctica is difficult, but seeing our operations firsthand is important." She activated the holographic display in the center of the table, showing a 3-dimensional model of Earth with glowing points representing Guardian nodes. "Earth's ecosystems aren't just habitats," she explained. "They form an interconnected defense system for these dormant entities." "Defense against what?" asked the French representative. Dr. Park glanced at Sung Min, who stepped forward. The alien anthropologist belonged to a species called the Neri, with smooth green skin and large reflective eyes that contain no visible pupils. "Throughout galactic history, beings like your guardians were not uncommon," Sung Min explained. "Our oldest records indicate they once existed on many worlds." The alien touched the display, showing various planets with similar energy patterns to Earth's. "But most were destroyed long ago," Sung Min continued. "Early spacefaring species feared their power and systematically eliminated them." "How could ancient civilizations destroy beings this powerful?" asked General Kim of South Korea. "By attacking their host worlds," replied Sung Min. "They developed weapons that could destabilize planetary cores or poison biospheres. Without their support systems, the entities could not survive." The diplomats exchanged worried glances. "But Earth's guardians survived," Dr. Park said, "because they developed a unique defense mechanism." Sung Min nodded. "They cultivated conscious protectors, life forms that would shield the planet from external threats." Are you suggesting humans evolved specifically to protect these beings? Asked General Kim, leaning forward. Not exactly, replied Sungmin. But your species' unique blend of destructive capability and creative ingenuity suggests your evolution was influenced to create perfect planetary defenders. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You're saying we're what? Guard dogs, said the British representative with obvious displeasure. Dr. Park shook her head. More like partners. The relationship appears symbiotic. The Guardians influenced our evolution, yes, but humans developed independently. Our consciousness is our own. After the briefing, Dr. Park returned to the lab where her team was analyzing tissue samples from areas near Guardian nodes. Plants growing near these sites showed unusual properties: accelerated growth, resistance to toxins, and strange cellular structures that could conduct the energy signatures. Dr. Park called Yunji, her research assistant. You need to see this. Yunji displayed microscopic images of plant cells taken from the Amazon node. The cellular structure was changing in real time, reorganizing into patterns that matched the Guardian energy signatures. The plants are adapting, Dr. Park murmured, becoming more efficient conduits. The implications troubled her. If the Guardians were modifying Earth's biosphere, what was their goal? Later that evening, Dr. Park met with a smaller group that included Ambassador Tadwan, Sungmin, and several key human scientists. We've analyzed the historical data, said Professor Kang, pointing to charts on the display. Guardian activity has spiked during 5 major periods in Earth's history, all coinciding with mass extinction events. That can't be coincidence, said Dr. Park. It's not, confirmed Sungmin. The Guardians appear to reset Earth's biological systems when they become unstable. Are they causing these extinctions? Asked Dr. Wu, a paleobiologist. No, said Tadwan. They respond to them. They reshape what remains after catastrophe to ensure continued biological diversity. Dr. Park thought about the current biodiversity crisis caused by human activity. So the 6th extinction event that we're causing now, it's triggering another response. Yes, said Sungmin, but this time is different. Previous awakenings were gradual, spanning thousands of years. This awakening is happening in decades. The team's breakthrough came the following morning. Data from monitoring stations revealed a clear correlation between human environmental disruption and Guardian activity. Deforestation, ocean acidification, and climate change weren't just damaging ecosystems, they were unwittingly accelerating the Guardian's awakening process. It's like poking a sleeping bear, Dr. Park told her colleagues. Our activities are essentially triggering an immune response from the planet. Professor Jun ran complex simulations based on current trends. The results were alarming. At current rates of disruption, we estimate full Guardian awakening within 5 years. What happens then? Asked General Kim, who had remained at the base. Unknown, said Tadwan. But a full awakening hasn't occurred in over 65 million years. The last time, Dr. Park realized, was when the dinosaurs died out. That night, as Dr. Park stared at the southern stars through the dome's observation window, she felt the weight of their discovery. Humanity had unknowingly been living on a planet that was essentially the life support system for ancient, powerful entities. Their actions were now disturbing a balance that had existed for millions of years. We need to understand their purpose, she said to Gaiho, who stood beside her. Are they a threat to us, or are we threatening them? Perhaps both are true, replied the alien scientist. Perhaps neither. The monitoring station alarm sounded, calling them back to work. Another Guardian node had activated, this one deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The awakening continued, and time was running short for humanity to understand what role they were meant to play, destroyers or defenders of the ancient system they called home. The discovery happened by accident. A routine ice core sample from beneath the Antarctic Research Station revealed unusual readings. Something lay buried 2 kilometers below the surface, something that didn't match any known geological formation. Dr. Park led the excavation team personally. After 3 weeks of careful drilling, they broke through into an empty space, a chamber that shouldn't exist so deep beneath the ice. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Jin as they lowered cameras into the void. This chamber would have formed millions of years ago, before Antarctica was covered in ice. The images showed a perfectly circular room with smooth walls made of a black material that absorbed light strangely. In the center stood a pedestal with a disc-shaped object. "We need to go down there," Dr. Park decided. 24 hours later, a small team descended through the narrow shaft. Dr. Park stepped into the chamber first, followed by Ambassador Taiwan, Sung Min, and Professor Jun. Their lights cast eerie shadows on the black walls. "The material isn't stone," said Professor Jun, scanning it with a handheld device. "It's not registering as any element on the periodic table." Dr. Park approached the central pedestal carefully. The disc on top was about 1 meter across and covered with intricate symbols that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. "Don't touch it," warned Taiwan, his skin paling with fear. But as Dr. Park moved closer, the symbols on the disc began to glow with a soft blue light. The light intensified, spreading to similar symbols on the walls that no one had noticed before. "We should leave," Sung Min said urgently. Before they could move, the glowing symbols pulsed once, and then a wave of energy washed over them. Dr. Park felt it pass through her body like a warm current. She gasped as images and knowledge flooded her mind. "They're refugees," she whispered as understanding came to her. The others experienced it too. Direct communication from the Guardians, bypassing language entirely to implant concepts and history directly into their consciousness. Dr. Park saw it all. A universe older than our own, collapsing in on itself as fundamental forces broke down. She saw beings of pure energy and thought who had once populated countless worlds in that dying reality. Most had accepted their fate, but a small group had discovered a method of escape, a way to cross the barrier between universes as the old one died and the new one formed. These survivors had embedded themselves into the fabric of young Earth when our universe was still forming, becoming one with the planet itself. They had shaped Earth's development over billions of years, guiding the formation of complex life. "This is why the Galactic Council feared Earth," Taiwan said, his voice shaking. Ancient knowledge warned that these beings could reshape reality itself. The communication continued, showing them how the Guardians had influenced Earth's evolution. They had no physical form as humans would understand it. Instead, they existed as patterns of energy within Earth's systems, oceans, atmosphere, magnetic field, and eventually, life itself. Later that day, the research team gathered in the main facility to process what they had learned. Many looked shaken by the experience. An alien psychologist named Hyun had joined them to help interpret the mental contact. "Human consciousness has been subtly guided by these entities," Hyun explained. "This explains humanity's paradoxical nature, capable of tremendous destruction yet driven to create and preserve." "They made us in their image?" asked General Kim. "Not exactly," replied Dr. Park. "They didn't create us, but they did influence our development. They needed conscious beings who could interact with the physical world in ways they no longer could." The team had learned that the Guardians existed primarily in a dormant state, awakening only briefly during planetary crises. Their energy systems maintained Earth's stability while they dreamed of their lost universe. "But why are they waking now?" asked Professor Jun. "What's changed?" Dr. Park replayed the knowledge that had been shared with her. They sensed something approaching. And there it was, the most shocking revelation of all. The Guardians weren't awakening by accident or merely responding to human environmental disruption. They were reacting to something detected at the edge of known space, something that threatened the fabric of reality itself. "They called it the void," Dr. Park explained. "It's hard to translate into our concepts, but it's some kind of force that exists between universes, The same force that destroyed their original universe is now approaching ours. Taiwan's skin had gone nearly white. This is beyond anything in council records. We had myths about Earth's entities, but nothing about this. Void. Dr. Park activated the main display, showing astronomical data from deep space telescopes. They showed me where to look. There's a region of space about 12 light years from our solar system, where stars are disappearing. The screen showed a dark patch where stars should be visible. Not a normal black hole or dust cloud, but an absence, a place where the laws of physics seem to be unraveling. "How long do we have?" asked General Kim. "A few years, maybe less," Dr. Park replied. "The Guardians are gathering their strength to defend against it. That's why they're awakening throughout the planet." That night, unable to sleep, Dr. Park returned to the chamber beneath the ice. She stood before the glowing disk, which now pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. "I need to understand more," she said to the empty room. "How can we help?" The symbols glowed brighter, and once again knowledge flowed into her mind. This time, she saw images of humans working alongside the Guardians, serving as their hands and eyes in the physical world, while the Guardians focused their energy on the approaching threat. The Guardians needed humanity, not as servants, but as partners. They had influenced human evolution specifically to create beings capable of helping them in this final defense. When Dr. Park emerged from the chamber hours later, her face was pale but determined. She gathered the research team and connected with government leaders worldwide. "The Guardians have shown me what we need to do," she told them. "Humanity must unite with them against this threat. Our technologies, our creativity, our ability to act quickly, these are qualities they need. And if we refuse," asked one official, "then both humanity and the Guardians will fall," she replied simply. "And after us, the rest of the universe." The ancient truth was clear. Earth had never been just humanity's home. It had always been a fortress, protecting entities who had once transcended time and space, entities who now needed humanity's help to defend all of existence from an encroaching void. The Unity Dome gleamed in the New Zealand sunlight, its crystal surface reflecting the blue sky. Inside, representatives from over 300 alien civilizations filled the massive circular chamber. Species of all forms, some gaseous, some crystalline, some resembling Earth creatures, and others defying any human comparison, gathered in what was the largest interstellar assembly in known history. Dr. Mina Park adjusted her translator earpiece as she took her place on the central platform alongside Ambassador Taiwan. 6 months had passed since first contact, and in that time, Earth had transformed from an isolated world to the focal point of galactic attention. Ambassador Taiwan stepped forward, his 8 eyes scanning the assembly. The silence was complete as he began to speak. "For millennia, we feared Earth," he said, his voice carried by translators to every being present. "We maintained quarantine not out of contempt, but terror. Now we understand. Earth is not a threat, but the final defense against true extinction." Displays activated around the dome, showing the approaching void that had now consumed 7 star systems. The darkness spread like ink in water, laws of physics unraveling at its edges. Dr. Park took the platform next. The past months had changed her. Regular communion with the Guardians had left visible marks, subtle luminescence beneath her skin that glowed faintly in darkness, and eyes that sometimes reflected colors not normally visible to humans. "The Guardians have fully communicated their purpose," she explained. "Forces from outside our universe seek to unravel reality itself. The void between realities is expanding, consuming everything in its path." She gestured to the planet model floating above the assembly. Earth was chosen as a sanctuary billions of years ago due to unique properties that allow it to anchor reality against cosmic entropy. Our planet exists at a junction point between dimensional planes, a natural fortress against the void. Murmurs spread through the alien representatives. Some had traveled for months to reach this meeting. Others had sent holographic projections across vast distances. The Guardians offer humanity a choice, Dr. Park continued. We can partner with these ancient beings as cosmic defenders, or we can separate ourselves from Earth's defense network. She turned to face the alien assembly. Similarly, the galactic community must decide whether to stand with Earth or face the void alone. The debate lasted 3 days. Some species argued for evacuation to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. Others proposed attacking the void with experimental weapons. The most fearful suggested destroying Earth and its guardians, claiming they had drawn the void to this reality. On the final day, General Kim presented Earth's military readiness plan. Humanity stands united for the first time in our history, he announced. All nations have contributed resources to the defense effort. He displayed the orbital defense grid now being constructed by combined human and alien engineering teams, platforms that would channel the Guardians' energy against the approaching void. When the vote came, it was not unanimous. 37 species chose to flee, 12 remained neutral, but the vast majority, over 250 civilizations, pledged alliance with Earth and its guardians. As the assembly concluded, Dr. Park returned to her quarters. That night, like every night since first contact with the disk, she dreamed of the Guardians' lost universe, beautiful, strange, and impossibly ancient. Back on Earth, strange phenomena began manifesting worldwide. Children in rural China reported seeing colors beyond the visible spectrum. Fishermen in Norway found they could sense creatures moving deep beneath the ocean surface. A farmer in Kenya discovered she could make plants grow by touching them and focusing her thoughts. Dr. Park led the research team documenting these changes. Humans are developing connections to the planetary consciousness, she explained to world leaders. These abilities were previously dismissed as superstition or myth, the basis for stories of magic throughout human history. The changes accelerated as the void drew closer. Earth's magnetic field strengthened, auroras appeared even at the equator, and the planet's core activity increased, all signs of the Guardians gathering their energy. 3 months before the calculated first contact with the void, Earth had transformed from quarantined backwater to central fortress in a multi-dimensional conflict. Orbital defense platforms constructed by alien allies surrounded the planet. Deep underground, the Guardians prepared, their energy systems now visible to the naked eye as glowing networks beneath Earth's surface. Dr. Park traveled to each major Guardian node, helping establish communication centers where humans with the strongest connections to the planetary consciousness could serve as interpreters. The ancient chamber beneath Antarctica became the primary command center, the disk now permanently active and pulsing with energy. We're still not ready, Dr. Park told Taiwan as they reviewed defense plans. The void is moving faster than predicted. We have allies arriving daily, Taiwan assured her. Species that haven't worked together in millennia are now combining their technologies with ours. Indeed, the solar system had become a hub of activity. Massive alien vessels orbited between Mars and Jupiter, smaller craft constantly shuttling between them and Earth. Human space programs had advanced decades in months with alien assistance, and joint defense crews now manned the orbital platforms. 1 week before the void was predicted to reach the outer solar system, Dr. Park traveled to a cliffside overlooking the Pacific Ocean. This spot, near Big Sur in California, marked one of the strongest Guardian nodes in North America. As she stood watching the sunset, she felt the ancient consciousness stirring beneath her feet, no longer alien or frightening, but familiar. 6 months of communion had changed her perception. She could now sense the Guardians directly, feel their determination and their fear. Earth had always been special, not because humans were exceptional, but because the planet itself was the last hope for all reality. The Guardians had chosen well when they embedded themselves here billions of years ago. The unique properties of this small blue world made it the perfect anchor point against cosmic entropy. Dr. Park closed her eyes and opened her mind to the Guardians. Images flowed into her consciousness. Defense plans, energy alignments, and the role humanity would play in the coming battle. The first incursion from beyond the dimensional barrier would come within days. Already, strange distortions appeared in the night sky where the void approached, places where stars seemed to warp and stretch before disappearing. Her communication device chirped. A message from Antarctic Command. Unusual energy readings at the edge of the solar system. It was beginning. Dr. Park took one last look at the peaceful ocean before turning toward the waiting transport. Earth's defenders, human, alien, and guardian alike, stood ready for the greatest challenge in the history of two universes. As her transport lifted off, Dr. Park felt a strange peace despite the looming conflict. For all of human history, people had looked to the stars and wondered if they were alone, if they had purpose in the vast cosmos. Now they knew. They were guardians of reality itself, partners with ancient beings in defending existence. Whatever came next, humanity had found its place in the universe. Not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as essential allies in the most important battle of all, the fight for reality itself. The end.